Welcome to the Paper Dungeon Talk Show, Wednesday night between the rows. It is Wednesday, right? Couple of quick announcements, maybe just one. Our merch store is up and running. We've got currently a sweatshirt. We'll be adding shirts throughout the weeks. We've got stickers. We've got hats. We got a beanie. If you're getting stickers, yep, we have masks. Stickers. We have a discount code for the shipping price on stickers, so make sure to use that. It's on the website. I believe the code is stickers. Yep, all caps. Just put it in if you're getting some. I'm ready to get started, so let's get right into it. All right. Groovy. Well, I think. Sorry, we were too busy jamming. Introductions. Our current host for tonight is our good friend Kenny, and some more than friend Kenny.
Ooh. Oh, really?
Yes, mine. I consider you a very close friend, Kenny.
Well, thank you.
Some of us lovers.
This escalated a little quickly, but you know what? I think I'm for it.
I'm glad that we're both all in on this, Kenny. Kenny will be our host for tonight. We are glad to have him. He has been a huge help, just doing all sorts of things. He makes dice. Check him out.
I do make dice. Yes.
Cool guy.
Kenny, where can they find you?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Oh, you could find me Etsy, Dice of the Winds, and Instagram, Dice of the Winds. Spaces are underscores.
And
on my core is under.
And that is wind with a D, not win.
No, it is winds.
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 Excellent.
Multiples.
So you wanna start us off with some questions?
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
we can head right in.
So I will start off. We did get a couple questions, both from Eve on Instagram.
Oh, hey. Shout out to Eve.
Shout out to Eve. And the first one that they asked was, what was the dream that Grant and Jared had that Sawyer could not see?
Oh, geez. Well, let me tell you. Totally had this planned. Specifically, Jared was in the midst of having a dream regarding his goddess, patron, because he was a warlock, regarding fate and what was to come. But since it wasn't visited, I didn't even tell Jared about it. So Jared had some slim guesses as to what was going on that I did not warn you about, because I thought it would be better if he was just as upset as everyone else. And Grant, if I remember correctly, Grant was just dreaming of Jared. It wasn't anything crazy. There was a large looming monster in the background, specifically from your little secret. The beginning. 100%. So one of them would have given a little bit of insight into the future in the form of like what was going to happen to Jared or what they were going to end up fighting.
Nice. The second question that they asked was, if Bailey were able to take Bev on a date, what would their first date be?
All right, now. My name's Grant. I play Bailey here on the Paper Dungeon.
Played.
The once with us Bailey. If Bailey. Well, here's the thing. You know, Bailey's a simple man. He enjoys the simple life. He enjoys things that are offered to him that are wholesome and magical, I guess you could say. Things like rain, like a storm, and you know, Bev also enjoys storms, and so it's only natural that, you know, the porch swing with the breeze and the round and earthy scent of the rain, you know, maybe a little hand holding. I think that's what he had in mind.
So,
Now,
so you mean to tell me that there's no dinner involved?
now I believe in session I said maybe I can have Meemaw whip up something nice, like maybe some rolls with butter and honey. So I think it would probably be something like, you know, something light, something very, very like a pastry almost, and then just sharing an evening on the porch watching a storm, hoping that lightning doesn't strike Bev or something weird like that, because she does lightning things. Oh yeah, but honestly, I honestly just think, all jokes aside, Bailey would probably literally just want to sit with Bev and probably like talk and just spend time with her, because he's a big softie.
Well, that sounds lovely.
No.
Indeed.
If I may, though, so Grant, you're telling me that your first date would be watching a storm, the thing that you were doing moments before you were killed.
So what you're saying is we already had our first date, and our date was my death?
Jesus.
All right, we can move on.
Well, I guess you could say.
How long have
in
you been
this
holding
case,
on to
love
that?
does hurt.
Or did you just come up
Love
with that?
does hurt.
Love does.
I've been
hurt.
holding on to that for about 30 seconds.
Nice. All right.
So good.
There was a second part to that question. What was Grant's and Jared's first date?
Who wants to cover this?
Well, Jared was the one that planned it, so I'll let him talk about it.
Jared being the softy that he is, and Grant not really being the type to plan things out. I think it would likely be kind of like a not quite twilight, but you know, the sun's setting, right? Jared has laid out a picnic blanket out behind the Johnson estate. He wrote many poems.
I wrote some poetry too. I sucked at it, but I wrote some
Yeah. Jared prepared, you know, a little bit of food, the best that he could. He's not much of a cook, but you know, he did his best. You know, he set up candles like around on like little sections of the forest. Just set the mood, you know, and they probably spent the time just eating, laughing in each other's arms. Jared reading subpar poetry and Grant reading out terrible just absolutely the worst. But Jared loving it no less. And yeah, I think just something simple like that, you know.
Maybe a little kiss here and there.
Just a little kiss.
Well, you know. I think that Jared and Grant are just like, you know, they like quality time. So
It seems that this cast, especially in this campaign, really enjoyed the simple things.
yeah. Hey man, when you're in the
nothing extravagant.
when you're in the Midwest, man, there's not a lot to do, bro.
That's what we have. Got it.
Second date, stargazing, you're out of ideas.
Okay.
Yeah. Honestly.
Well, to build off the poetry, there is a question. The poem that Devin read, was that plagiarized?
Yes. Devin did not know it was. Devin legitimately did get sent a vision. He was not wrong. It was one of those that Greek sent a poem from heaven. He just didn't know that it had already been written. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know who sent it. It could have been the god of plagiarism. So for all those high school students out there who are like, I got away with it and I don't know how, Devin too. Devin's right there with you. Yeah, definitely plagiarized. Excellent poetry. It was only the person who wrote it, for the life of me, I can't remember her name. She only wrote one, and it was for her friend whose mother died and she couldn't go to her funeral. So she only wrote one. It was really good. If you look up poems about death, I think it's the first one. So kind of nailed it on the head of the first try. So.
First try? Nice. This one is really for everybody, DM characters. What character building freedoms were given to the cast members that, or because of the fact that this was such a uniquely styled homebrew campaign?
Oh, jeez. I mean, I really wanted them to go, wow. I knew that when I was telling them all about it, I knew that since it was based in 2008 Midwest Nebraska, it wasn't like I could just have a lizard person running around making shields out of people's bones. But I also didn't want to limit them to being, okay, so we have human or nothing. So I kind of just told them, hey, whatever race you pick, we will skin it to look however you would so desire, as long as it is vaguely human. I think the closest thing we got to being like super far away from human was probably Bev. Everyone else looked pretty standard, but Bev had the what was it, Tibetan? The Tibetan birthmark to signify she was a blue dragonborn. But other than that, I mean, was there any other crazy? Yeah.
It's not so much a restriction or anything like that, but I did really enjoy the idea of having the 2 questions at the beginning. The what were they? One connection that you had to another cast member, and then something that had happened. Yeah, something that had happened. So I thought that was really, really cool, and I enjoyed that aspect.
I have a similar thing. I guess we might go down the line or something. I have a similar thing. I enjoyed the aspect that was very unique, that the things that we said, especially in character development, either about other players or about the environment around your character, you could, like we could in character development, developing our character, also influence in small ways the development of other characters and the world around us. And when we were in game and we'd made certain decisions or said certain things, that could also bring things that are canon that weren't previously thought of. So I really enjoyed that aspect of just being able to influence other characters and their stories. Do you have anything?
No, not really.
One thing I really enjoyed with Sawyer that Aaron did with me was I wanted Sawyer to just be like crazy obsessed with all these things. And so what Aaron did was he gave me a list of just crazy lore things that Sawyer would believe. Some of them were true, some of them were not, and I did not get to know which ones were true and which ones were not.
I think you still don't know.
I still have no idea. No. Hey, do you guys summon demons in your basement?
My family?
Yeah.
I cannot confirm nor deny.
Well,
This is the time to spill the tea, Ryan.
Okay, well, while Jared was alive, no, we didn't. Yeah, we did not.
He was never alive.
Yeah, I was never alive.
That's very fair. That's pretty accurate.
Well, while Jared exists in the different timeline where Jared existed, no, the current timeline that you guys are in, maybe.
good one.
Hard
Yeah.
to know. You're not there now.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Hard to read.
To be fair, Ryan isn't
Is it-
here still.
Yeah.
Correct. I'm a figment of all of your guys' imaginations. How's it going?
You got anything?
What? Anything else? What else do you remember?
There's
Because
so
I'm
many.
curious now.
There's so many,
Oh, about
but
But the lore that
there's
she.
so many. There's just so many.
Okay,
That we can't.
okay,
There's no
okay.
time for this.
Okay.
Well, I really liked the items that we all got too. I thought they were very personal to our characters and very well thought out, and I really enjoyed that. But I also really just enjoyed the part that Aaron mentioned about how we were all like different races. We just looked human, and I really enjoyed like subtly hinting that Bev was a blue dragonborn, and yet when it got to the point where it was revealed, I had people that were still like, what? So it was really cool because I thought like, oh, blue hair streaks, a blue birthmark. I thought that might be like
The thing that did it for me was because you're of the House of Lightning. He said that like once or twice, and I'm like, oh, okay.
To the Thunder Palace.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed that part, and I enjoyed knowing that I wasn't too obvious about that.
About the questions, I'm not gonna lie. When I was explaining the whole questions thing, I actually got it from, I have an RPG called the Yellow King RPG. It's right there. And that's where I got that idea from. Some of the examples I gave them were like, you could totally say, hey, Bev and Crowbar robbed a bank when they were 11, and no one has ever found out about it. And Crowbar, who did not know that he robbed a bank, now robbed a bank, and there is nothing that he could do about it. Yeah. So like, I'm not gonna lie, I was really glad that no one did. but I was expecting something like, I've committed murder 5 times, and the only one who knows it is Sawyer.
Actually, I have something. So regarding those questions and stuff, one of the interesting things, since I mean this campaign will never be touched ever again, and Jared's gone.
He was never there to begin
He
with.
was never there to begin with. Jared is.
Who's Jared?
Yeah, what's a Jared?
Jared was the love of my life. Don't forget him.
No. One of the more interesting things as well, I was making Jared. I was talking to Aaron, and we were talking about like, who is Jared? What kind of aspects he would have, and I'm just like, what I was like, I want him to have something romantic with one of the player characters, but I'm like, I know everyone's gonna like immediately like hop on like, either like Lydia's character or Hannah's character. I'm like, I don't want to do that. That's boring. No offense to you two. I love you both dearly. That's boring. So at first, if I'm going to be entirely honest, you're going to want to step away from me for this. At first, if I'm going to be entirely honest, I actually wasn't thinking Grant. I was going to say, yeah, Jared was going to be in love with Bailey.
Yeah, dude. Farm boy charm.
But the thing, but that didn't really like work out in my head. I didn't really want it to be like a distanced thing. And initially it was going to be Jared. Like that was going to be one of the statements I was going to say, right? That was going to be my statement of like, Jared and so have had a relationship or are romantically involved. But then Aaron kind of convinced me to go away from that, because he's like, you could use that for so much more. If you want to be involved with someone romantically, I mean, you could just talk to them about that and see if that's something that their character would be cool with. And then I talked to DJ, and he was like, dude, yeah. And I was like, sweet. So that's how that came to be. I found it interesting. That's like what everyone kind of decided to use their one statement for. I don't know, a part of me is kind of glad that I went against that, and didn't, no offense, burn it on a romantic relationship with my IRL lover.
See.
They do live together.
My love.
Okay, I have a question. Okay, so I already gave this to Kenny, but since we were on the topic of it for a brief second, I still don't know what everybody's races were.
Yep, that was actually going to be the next one.
Well, I was a wood elf.
Oh.
I was a wood elf.
Oh.
That makes sense.
Jared was a drow. He was a drow.
Yes.
He has the white streak, the darker
Yes,
complexion.
yes.
He has a lot sharper features and stuff. Yeah.
This may come as a surprise to everyone. Bev was a blue dragonborn.
Whoa. Oh,
I
my
know.
God.
I know, everyone. I know.
I thought you were breaking the rules over here.
Grant was a Goliath, so he'd be good at football.
Dude, I can't remember. I think I'm just a human, though. I think
was the only normal dude.
but I couldn't remember. I think it's. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it's just a
Are
human.
you sure it wasn't but a dog?
Crowbar was also just a human.
Okay, we were humans.
Okay.
That's canon.
Okay.
That's canon.
There you go.
Yeah. the NPCs were there.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
All right. Aaron, this one was for you. Did you know ahead of time who you were going to kill off in this campaign?
Okay, so whoever handed me this is semi-loaded. Yes and no, at varying points in time. So I hang out with Grant a lot, probably too much. Hey,
Grant, not that.
no songs on stream. But I hang out with Grant a lot, so we talked. This was Grant and I's Chaos love child, and so I knew more about his character than a lot of them. And while I was going through, I was like, okay, he's a paladin. I kind of want to hide something in his cornfield because that's cool. And I stumbled across, because he's a Patterson, which is inherently Irish, the Doulahan, which is the like emissary of death. And the thing is, I was reading through the lore, which is super interesting. Celtic lore is really cool. But the way that the Doulahan works is they ride, and then they only stop once on their ride. When they do, they call out a name, and whoever that is like dies just immediately. I was like, oh, that's a super cool piece of lore that will never come into play, but it's cool to know. And then
Wink, wink.
the first thing that Grant says, he's like, okay, this is my cool secret, is I was in a cornfield, and as I was running away, I heard my name on the wind. And I'm like, okay, well, he's going to die. So I knew that somehow I was killing Bailey. And then I kind of figured that someone else was going to die. I didn't know who. Up until, what episode was it? Where everyone was like, well, I guess we're just going to die. Everyone's going to, no, I think it was episode 4, right? It was fight.
Yeah.
3 or 4?
It was 4.
Because in between the recordings, Ryan talked to me, who's like, hey, Aaron, I know that there's no ability that I can have that would allow me to do this. So immediately I was interested. Is there any way? Huh? Yeah. Is there any way that I can like ask my patron to do something? I was like, depends on what you're willing to give. And then he was like, I'll give everything. And I'm like, oh, that was a mistake, friend. You've made a terrible choice, but the best one. And so from then on, I was like, what can I do to him that's worse than death? And so and now we're here. Well, some of us are here.
That's hitting a little hard.
Look,
I'm doing great.
that's what I'm here for. Crowbar made it through unscathed. Not a blow dealt. Yeah, 100%. Building tanks, he's living the dream. Yeah.
Well,
So kinda.
So then, my question is, Bailey sacrificed their everything to protect somebody, anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Then why was it that 2 people were saved, both Bev and Sawyer, instead of the one?
Well, let me tell you. So,
Talking about when Bailey's grandpa sacrificed
Why
her?
won't you let me die?
so, well, so let me tell you.
Okay.
Partially because of plot. Partially because I had already knocked out Lydia once, like first episode, pretty much second episode, I think, and she was traumatized enough, and plus I love making Lydia live through the pain of watching her friends die. But the other reason for that is when Bailey's grandfather sacrificed himself to bring Bailey back. He was still in the material plane. So it was kind of a 1-for-1 transfer. Honestly, all of you could have been dead. But because they were in the Doulahan's realm, the control over life and death that he had in that state, where he kind of just assumed the role of the one who leads souls to and from life, was a lot stronger in the graveyard, aka the field of souls. So yeah, that's why he got a 2-for-1 and his grandpa only got 1.
Gotcha. So prior to the campaign initially starting, how many of the NPCs, the monsters, or character outcomes did you already have planned out?
Well, in talking with these guys, I got to come up with. I went with each of them individually, found out what family they had because I knew that in the Midwest, family is a very important thing. We're the heartland. So I had those. Let me tell you, Devin, he was not planned. Devin was not at all. I was like, crap, someone needs to run this place. Really excited teenage guy. And of course, me and my excellence made the best character. In terms of like monsters to fight, I didn't know the final boss until DJ in his mysterious happening. Afterwards, he was like, hey Aaron, you know what that was? And I was like, what was it, DJ? He was like, it was a Nightwalker. And I don't know if you were serious.
I was serious.
Or if you actually intended me to use it or
I
not.
had no clue if you were gonna use it. Yeah.
But I don't know how many times I've played with DJ for a long time, and he still hasn't figured out that all a player has to do is ask me to do something, and I'll do it. Hence the just stab me, do it. I dare you. I'm already down. Stab me again.
I still didn't die.
And so I did. So I stabbed him mentally, emotionally, physically. So yeah, that's and then the rest of them, I knew the first boss, and I came up with the second boss after the first boss. Because I was like, I don't know, I can't do eyes, so I guess I'll just do tongues.
That seems to be a character favorite.
A perfect jump.
So, Aaron, here, I have a question for you.
I kind of mentioned it earlier, but from one DM to another, what is your process of going through and creating these body horror monsters, and like what do you do for that to create those monsters?
One of my favorite conversations. Well, I think I covered this a little bit during the Monday question and ask, but I will gladly answer it again. If you want to inspire horror, specifically body horror, the fundamentals of it are too many, in the wrong place, and in the wrong direction. Any of those things, or all of them at the same time, will immediately make your players give faces of disgust for the next 2 hours. Whether it's too many tongues, elbows that go ways that they should not go, or just kind of all of them at the same time. There's a whole bunch of elbows in the wrong direction. Hands instead of eyes, tongues instead of skin. You can really do anything you want. Now, when it comes to making the stat blocks, I normally I find a stat block that kind of already fits the image in my brain, and then I might take a little bit away, add a little bit, always add on like 100 health to every monster. Give them second health bar. Big fan of that. If you can fit 2 body horror monsters in 1 body horror monster, it's a bargain.
If I'm going to be honest, I think the second health bar is the thing that scared me the most. It wasn't the body horror. That I can deal with. You know, the fact everyone was dying, I was mildly stressed. When we killed it and then it just kept walking, that is what did it for me.
Dark Souls.
Yeah, I heard the music change.
So I've got a thing.
Actually, really quickly, for just, research purposes. In place of too many, does too much apply? Like instead of like too many arms, what about too much arms? You know, like there's just like their arms, there's just a lot of arms.
Too beefy.
The arm just keeps going.
Yes.
You know.
Well,
Yes.
I can
Absolutely.
add to that.
I'll just ask you guys then so this is go back to the other campaign, the Fae that you guys fought, her hands were basically as big as her body. Did that freak you guys out?
I'm gonna be entirely.
It made me giggle.
Exactly. So it just depends. I think it's give and take.
Fair. Now, I think the reason that wasn't as impactful is because we didn't I think like when when Tarak got picked up by her, you should have like described it more of her like spindly fingers, like just like
See, but
you
that
know.
feels like too little.
No, what if you do like a bunch of fingers? What if
We're
All the
completely
yeah?
off topic.
What if you do like a lot of finger but like multiple joints? You know, like more
like
too
like-
many
Whoa.
joints. Yeah.
Too many.
Yeah, too many joints. There's too many.
So there's a theme that Aaron pulled off throughout this whole campaign where it's like, ha ha ha, oh no, whew, oh no. That's like, it's that progression. That always happens. And so like, and that happened emotionally, and that also happened like in combat. So like, I remember the first time the second health bar came up, and it was Grant and Bailey, I think both, it was crazy. It was Smite Night. We both Divine Smited. It was a reaction attack. We both hit it. And we just blew all the tongues off of it, if I remember, and stuff.
We literally like put all of our energy and like the last big hits that we had into killing this thing.
And most people were down. We did a crazy amount of damage, and it felt so victorious. We were like, we did it. We beat the thing. And then Aaron was like, he didn't end combat, and then like more stuff happened. And and he's like, and then Ryan's like, haha, the second bar comes up, and it's just when those things happened in the session, like it just felt so defeating as a cast.
Yeah.
It was so tough, guys.
Especially because we're like looking at our character sheets going, okay, cool, we have like one big move left. We do that. Cool, it's dead. Relax. It gets back up. We look back down at our character sheets and still see that we still have nothing that we can throw at this thing.
Yes.
And we're just like, what do we do?
Exactly.
I think the best moment was when when like it was on my turn and everyone was like, "Come on, Jared, just do a thing." And I'm like, "Guys, I'm a warlock. What do you expect from me?" Like I have no spell slots. I don't deal any damage. I have a cantrip, and it's too close in range.
Okay, so when it came to the monsters, when I was making these up, 5e is very, very generous towards the players a lot of the time. I don't like being generous to my players. I like to give them challenges that often end with death. For some of them. Now, I want to be clear here. The things that you fought, starting at the tongue monster and then the very last one, right? Those were immediate from a challenge 16. You leveled up to a challenge 21. And I added
So we were all level
100 health to each of those. And even without Bailey resurrecting himself, you would have only lost 2 people in that last encounter. So I would say, hey, y'all did pretty good. Like, okay, let's get it together. And the tongue one, the whole second health bar thing, most DMs won't do that. So DMs, second health bars, kill your players. But gently, with love.
With love.
With love.
Tender love.
Show them that you care by
Yes.
driving a knife into their chest.
Yes. The fastest way to your players' hearts.
And making sure you disturb at least one of them with the description of it.
Yes. Well, okay, just one.
At least.
Just one.
Okay.
Sure. Okay. All of them.
All
Disturb
of
all of them.
Kind of going back to the dreams at the beginning. Everybody saw each other. They recognized them physically. Like, they looked as if they were them, but they were different. There was something about them different. Does that point towards something like similar to the Forgotten Realms or a different plane of existence?
It pointed towards the past. So, I think you mentioned the different races and stuff, and the reason for that was, in my mind, kind of following the in between vibe, where like the reason that these things exist is because people believed in them in the past, and so just as these things have occurred in the past, and I think Grandpa Patterson kind of alluded to it, this isn't the first time that this has happened. So a lot of times your abilities and memories and things like that will be transferred down through blood. So the reason that you have the ability to shoot lightning is that at one point in time, your ancestor was literally a dragonborn, like frills and all. But just that memory of it has been lost to time and kind of turned into myth and legend. So the reason you guys all started at level 4 was because those dreams were basically your past, your lineage, or whatever, in the case of Crowbar at least, whatever it is that is giving you these abilities is kind of teaching you what has come before, and your body just remembering how it reacted to that. And then you building upon that as you leveled up and grew.
It's really interesting. This is going to go across the way. Crowbar.
Across the rows.
Yeah, yes. Yes,
Across the road.
Across the rows.
That's an interesting name you got there. Tell us about the crowbar incident.
Oh. Oh man, everyone's interested in this.
Even I am.
Maybe I should just keep it to myself.
No. Tea must be spilt.
No. It's okay. These characters won't get sequels.
At least 2 of them.
So the crowbar incident. So back in freshman year, all of us were buds, except somehow, I don't know how. I don't know. I never told Aaron, so I don't know. But Crowbar was always picked on, and you guys all knew him as Eugene back then. That was one of the things he got picked up on about is his name, and his physicality, and his small weakness, and all this good stuff, classic stuff. And it was primarily done by the football team. Part of the reason he doesn't like Grant.
Jared is also part of the football team.
We're getting to that. And so the crowbar incident was when he was at his shop, just working on his things. It was, I imagine it was a summer afternoon on a Saturday, and he was working, and some of the football players came over with their Letterman jackets, being all suave and stuff like that, and started to make fun of him, like they do. And for some reason, Crowbar just snapped. And he picked up his crowbar that was right next to him as he was working, and he proceeded to wail on them. And ever since then, nobody has messed with Crowbar Jones.
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And the Jared thing was that, like I said at the beginning of the first episode, Jared was the only person in the entire town who didn't judge him for it.
Yeah, man, what am I gonna judge, bro?
So
Not real.
that was Crowbar's one piece of interesting lore.
So now there's now no one who didn't judge you. Everyone's like, well, that's the kid who was judged.
Yep.
That's tough.
Oh man.
The plan has worked.
Yeah, it's successful.
It's successful. Okay. Now going to the Bevan Bailey situation. Bev, this tea also needs to be spilt.
Oh.
Did you have a crush on Bailey before the campaign started, or was it something that had developed?
When I first made Bev, this seems to be a common theme with my characters here. I thought that Bev was going to have a hard time finding people to like her. She was very standoffish. She was very, strong-headed, and although Bev is calmer than Melora, but it seems that I can't make a character that has a hard time being liked.
That's right.
So
Some quality character.
I did not even think about anything romantic for Bev until Bailey. I mean, we were the last two to have our connections, weren't we? We were the last two, and you couldn't pick someone that had already gone, and so he said his connection, and then I was like, okay, I guess, yeah, sure, and then I'm glad that happened, because what ended up becoming of that was so great and sad. But
What was the connection again? What did you say for the connection?
So when he asked for the connections, everybody had gone through. I was left. The only person was Bev, who was basically my neighbor across the fields, and whose grandparents I knew, and who I've been childhood friends with. So it's only natural that Bailey, she's similar to Bailey, and so Bailey was just kind of always interested in Bev, but never really did anything about it. And I have more to say. Do you have more to say?
Well, you can keep going.
Okay, wonderful, because there's a lot to spill here. And as you said, there's a lot of tea to spill. So one of the reasons why I think Bailey, I do that so much. One of the reasons why I think Bailey never actually like talked to Bev about how he felt before the campaign was because he knew Bev so well, and he knew that Bev was like that. How Hannah just explained how Bev is, and he knew that Bev knew kind of what she wanted to do, and he didn't want to hold her back from like living a life that she had control of and stuff like that. And Bailey also suffers from some like social anxiety. And so, and that's part of the reason why he's quiet and only really speaks when he needs to. And so I think that mixed with knowing that Bev is really strong-willed, I think he was just always kind of afraid to talk to Bev about it. But when everything happened, I think that finally sparked in Bailey's mind that he has a limited amount of time, and that he, despite his fear, wants to talk to Bev about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, my connection, if I remember exactly how I said it, was that Bev usually doesn't really think about boys, but that Bailey's not so bad, I think is what I said. But
Boy next door kind of vibes.
yeah, no, exactly. And it's just as Bailey said it, but I actually think that that's like exactly why it ended up working for the short period that it worked. Because in their conversation, I remember specifically it was like Bev, I said like I have terms and conditions, and then Grant was like, I thought you might. And it was like Bailey knew exactly what he was getting into with Bev, which I think was a reason why it started to work so well, because he wasn't gonna try to change her.
Isn't Bailey just such a heartthrob?
Oh, my.
The contra boy charm. I'll pass it off now. I'm so sorry.
Bailey could write a book on how to void your warranty.
Well, this next one is actually still for Bailey.
Oh, well, I didn't need to take this at all.
Oh no.
Okay. Hi.
Just curious. What was the reasoning? Like, did anything happen in your backstory to make you deny the existence of magic?
That's an interesting question. So one thing with Bailey and his family, his grandparents especially, as you know, because they were like a part of the Homestead Society and everything like that, which is where all this mumbo jumbo is happening. I think Bailey grew up being taught how to work the land, being taught like how to harvest, and then how running the farm works. And I think Bailey was always pretty confident in that path of life. Like he was always, this makes sense. And when it comes to all of those little weird things that the family did, like you mentioned, they put out those little like skeleton puppets that they put out on the farm. Bailey, in his mind, always just attributed that to like old family practices that were more like superstitions. He used that word a lot, especially when the Homestead Society was being explained. And so in Bailey's mind, it was more like, oh, these are just things we do because of tradition, or these are things we do just because it's what we do. But in his mind, I think he was always like, okay, I plow the land, I plant the seed, I water it, I make sure blank, 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 and blank is correct. I get the crops, and then I go through the process again the next year. And to that, it's just very solid. It just makes sense. And Bailey, again, is really simple in mind. And so when he was confronted with things that didn't make sense, in his mind, I think he was initially like, that doesn't make sense. And I think he's initially just going to back off from it, because he's like, there has to be an explanation, you know?
Trying to find the logical answer for it.
Absolutely. Yeah. But of course, as it happened more, he couldn't deny it.
Yeah.
But he was still afraid of it. He
Yeah.
didn't want to coax it on and cause problems. So.
Okay. Sawyer. You often say that you were awkward and weird on purpose. What made you kind of go into this reaction? What was always your reasoning behind it?
Like why she always said that she was weird
Yeah.
and things? So, Sawyer, you saw her mom. So she's always grown up with kind of the crazy family label. And when she was growing up as a kid, she really enjoyed all the stories her mom told her. And she enjoyed all the imaginative things to her, and it became an escape for her. And then as she got older and kids get crueler, it's either I accept that I'm the weird girl or I let it destroy me. And so she was like, I'm the weird girl and I'm going to wear it proudly. And that's what she grew up into.
Okay. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
These next few are going to actually be for Aaron.
Do I get to talk more about lore, Dad?
Yes. How much lore was missed due to characters taking different actions or different paths?
Oh my goodness. So, well, okay. So in terms of quantity of lore, I think Grant literally compiled like a 2-page or more document of just Norfolk, and which is where me and the boys are from, and surrounding areas and stuff like that. And so there was a lot of lore that I just couldn't find anywhere to put in. Some of it I put in the document that I sent to Sawyer, so if she chose to like investigate one of them randomly, I could throw it in or anything like that. But other than that, surprisingly, the paths that they took really didn't miss any huge things. Like, they went to all the main areas. I got to explain a whole lot of the main concepts and themes surrounding the whole general campaign. I think my favorite thing that they could have looked into a bit more, but there really wasn't. They really couldn't have. But if they would have, it would have been fun. Kind of checking out the insane asylum, that was mentioned a couple of times. The tunnels, actually, that was another way into the tunnels, and another place that I could have chosen that they came out of, but the way that the story had gone, just felt more right to put it on Colt Road, in that little witch hut. Yeah, man, there was a whole lot of lore that I haven't gotten to explain, or they didn't get a touch upon. Bev, the whole, like, what's the deal with the Thunder Palace and stuff like that. Man, where do I even start with Bev? So Bev is actually a much more recent generation of, like, kind of hero. In the way her father's side went very far back. That's where she got the guns and stuff. But obviously her dad is not a Dragonborn. And the whole thing was your grandmother, which the final boss actually mentioned, Lyzie, was what he was intending by that, meaning that your mother was that Sky Dragon's daughter. Now, where your mother left, because there's a lot of things behind that. Your grandmother always cared for you, which is why you felt that attraction to storms and stuff like that, and why you were a guest in the Thunder Palace. But my favorite little interesting bit of lore is that the revolver that your father made, that was a vision sent to him by your grandmother as kind of a gift to you as you would grow older. And Dion Mu, which is the name of your gun, is another name for Lyzie. It is said that Lyzie uses mirrors to shoot lightning across the sky, which is why it was so shiny and reflective. And yeah.
Who's Lyzie?
Lyzie was the sky dragon.
Yeah.
In Chinese lore, she is a Chinese god of lightning. She isn't normally seen as a dragon, but I figured through the concept of, I don't know, Western ideology, and also because I like dragons.
Who doesn't?
Dragons are cool. I figured that being this huge summer storm dragon that followed the Transcontinental Railroad, which actually started right next to, like basically just right outside of Nebraska, and a huge force behind that was Chinese Americans that they worked a ton on the Transcontinental Railroad. I figured it would be cool for it to follow that. Yeah. That was one of my favorite things, just the connections between them.
Quick question, not to drag away from the other questions that you have. I just know I'm gonna forget this. When Sawyer's mom showed up, the cards. Did you plan those out beforehand, or did you just kind of like, death terror?
No. I expected Sawyer's mom to show up, me to do my fun Sawyer's mom, and everyone to be like, ha ha ha, ha, and then she would leave. And you would never see her again. She would never show up. It was going to be great. And then y'all had to be like, well, why don't you get your fortunes told, Jared? Bailey? And so immediately I went into panic mode. If you watch it back, I'm sure that if you look hard enough, you can see me frantically typing. Now, let me tell you, yours I knew, because I was like, 100%. I don't know what's going down, but no matter what, I can frame it like I did. And then they were like, hey, Bailey. And immediately my mind blanked as to every other card in the tarot deck. I was like, oh, yeah, the Tower. And I can't believe I forgot Death.
Yeah.
How do I forget that Death is a tarot card?
The funny thing is, though...
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
The funny thing is, though, and because I haven't had to mess with tarot cards since we created Nico Muris, but out of like rough memory, I was like, wow, these are strangely accurate. Aaron must have thought this ahead of time. Man, he's like 4D chessing it, and like knowing that you were just.
I'm just really good at this game.
Because I'm like looking at it, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense for Jared. I'm like, oh, and Bailey, oh yeah, I could see that. Yeah. Oh, that must mean that something's gonna happen later on, and then things did happen later on, but I'm
planned.
Just like, oh,
just.
You know?
Yeah, it's actually, I got kind of lucky with yours because I was like, the Tower card is very easy to frame as like kind of, it's like a change.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
But it's also a very big like Crux of Fate card, which kind of just magically lined up
with everything.
And I was like, I'm just going to say totally planned. Totally planned it every second.
For Bailey, you could have just scapegoated and just been Death Terror at finality. He put himself in there in the first episode.
Yeah.
But anyways,
that was the tarot card situation. I don't know tarot. I kind of know tarot, but not well enough.
I have Kristen.
I might have answer.
Okay, so we met Sawyer's mom.
Yeah.
And we saw Sawyer's little brother.
Oh boy.
But I was really bummed because I never got to hear my little brother's voice.
Okay, so let me tell you, I'm sorry.
You can make up for it now.
Yes.
Okay, so I could, but in a very Ginger situation, how do I voice the most annoying 12-year-old boy?
I feel like you could figure it out.
Yeah. Look, I'm a scumbag, but I'm not that bad. I was never 12. I was born 17 years old. I was born 17 years old. I don't even know what it's like to be 12.
Just say, Mom said it's my turn on the Xbox.
Oh wait, no, do you have games on your phone?
2008, there are no games.
Do you have an iPhone? Because I would like one. And does it have games?
I have a bit to say about the lore question that we were talking about. Okay. On the lore thing. Now, as you know, that Aaron and I live in the same town and we hang out a lot. And when we were talking about the the idea for this campaign, it was, now granted, Aaron planned the whole thing, so like I didn't have anything to do with the planning, but I helped with the kind of inspiration thought process. And when we were talking about it, Aaron had the idea of like this cool Midwestern Gothic or whatever, but we pretty much tried to, or I believe Aaron did, almost every single area or concept used in the game are mostly parts of the town that we grew up in, and like actual urban lore, like or versions of that lore from the town. Now, of course, things like Lyzee and stuff, there are other things from surrounding areas. I think we had a little bit of influence from Indiana, because that's the Midwestern part where Lydia's from and whatnot. But for the most part, it's just really cool because it actually is kind of a mirror side of like reality, of things that actually legitimately existed and legends that are actually held in our hometown. So that was also really cool.
Well, I think we're about halfway through, so we're probably going to take a quick little break here. We'll be back 10 to 15 minutes-ish. Stick around, ask questions in the chat. We are looking at it, we're reading it. If you have any, hit us with it, and I will try to answer them, or someone else will. Nice. See you later. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Woo! We're ready to... Oh, no. Oh, well. Yeah, okay. Well, we got to get this situated. God. DJ.
One job, DJ.
You're off the... I'm sorry. We're voting you off the island.
I'm out.
Yeah, Grant's DMing from now on. Grant, who plays Edward on the Paper Dungeon.
I'm hearing from an anonymous source that you have been disrespecting the flower crowns. No. Not cool, dude.
Not cool, dude. Yeah, let's get back to some questions. I saw that we got some chat wise, some not chat wise.
Yes. We got some chat wise.
Let's rock.
First one that came in was from Eve.
Ooh.
What actually happened to Sawyer?
Okay, so actually my original plan for Sawyer, Aaron asked like what our characters were gonna plans were after they finished college and things like that. Sawyer always planned on leaving. She never wanted to stick around. She wanted to travel. That's what her mom wanted. That's what the dream her mom had was about, was her mom getting to travel with her family and do things like that. And Sawyer always wanted to fulfill that. And so then after everything happened, it gave her even more of a reason to want to leave. Especially because she kind of felt like some of it was her fault. Despite Jared's loving words and encouragement, Sawyer believed that some of this was her manifestation. And so Sawyer ended up running away, but like it was said in the ending, like she wasn't going to leave her friends fully behind. She would check in on them on dreams all the time. And then when they would get really bad, that's when she would come back. And the only way she could really bear to be there was as a mourning dove. And so she'd bring them a little gift of a flower crown and then leave until they needed her again.
Quick question. Not knowing how far Sawyer traveled, right? I assume that since they had been so heavily exposed to the in-between, that no matter how far away they went from the Midwest, where it's more highly concentrated, they still had their abilities, I assume, right? Yeah? Okay. I was just curious, because, like, you know, it'd be kind of funny if, like, we left Nebraska and then just,
no.
Yeah, just... you just biff it into some dirt.
Dude, there's 1,000 feet in the air, plummet. Nah. We're basically gods, right?
Yeah.
The powers are a part of the person. It's in the blood. It's in the soul. It's what makes them people. In like now, it's a part of them. I would assume just off of a guess. I don't know for sure. I never got to throw this in. This is one of the things that I was going to make a reference to, where it's like, sure, Nebraska is kind of that pass-through state where all the magic runs through, and they've turned it in kind of a drain, but they never got to Florida. So I like to imagine that in this 2008 world, Florida is just overrun with it. And so it's true. The greatest cryptid of all, Florida man. Yeah, who knows? Sawyer could have discovered the truth.
Incredible.
100%. And that's why actually in the dream that you saw of your mother, she was driving on the Florida shores, because that's where your mom first got interested in it, because she saw the truth behind it and started looking for more, and then ended up passing through Nebraska, just kind of got stuck. But yeah, that's that. Although I should ask, you just mentioned it, Lydia, and those of you who are either dead or don't exist anymore can answer this too. What were your characters' plans before they got superpowers? Like, what were they going to do just as like normal people, like once this summer was over?
Well, when Jared still existed, and before demons, he honestly, for the time, like, he was convinced that he was just gonna follow Grant, to college. He wasn't entirely sure what his major was gonna be, but it, probably creative writing. Yeah, honestly, maybe become a teacher or something. Just he definitely wasn't staying in town. That's for sure. I think, all that went on with his family and stuff. The only real solid piece of ground that he had was Grant, and he wasn't gonna let that slip by without a fight, probably. So yeah. Yeah.
Oh, well, like I said, Sawyer was just going to go and travel, and that was just what she wanted to do.
Well, Bev wasn't going to leave her dad. She, before, kind of always saw herself as having everything she needed or could want where she was. Yeah, she had a very loving, supportive father that encouraged her to be independent and a strong-willed, sharp-tongued woman, which was amazing, obviously, and something she would love. They had a great workshop. They had the opportunity to do gun shows and everything, and she always kind of just saw herself as ending up with Bailey at some point later. So she had everything she could ever need there, and didn't want to leave her dad alone. So
Grant's plans was to eventually take over his family's farm. He was going to go be an ag major. Ag business, baby. It's the best way to go. And so, yeah, probably take over the business. Eventually probably provide some sort of haven for Jared from his dad, since he did end up wanting to go. If they were to stay together, he was wanting to go back and take over the plantation. So whether they got married or not, trying to find some place that he could allow Jared to stay. And that was probably his kind of two big things. Yeah, that's probably what he was going to do.
So Bailey mentioned even on stream that he always liked the idea of the family farm, and he was always planning on taking it over. He wasn't planning on going to college because he's learned everything he needed to know. He knows how to farm. He can do it well. He is good at it. Their family is good at it, and so he kind of always just planned on sticking around and doing the farm. But one thing about Bailey too is that I think he was always felt a little bit small, like as if he wished he could do more or wished he could be more, but he just wasn't. He was just small and really simple and humble, which he was okay with, but I think a part of him kind of wished for more. So with Bailey still, I mean, he was interested in Bev for a long time, and so I think it was definitely in Bailey's mind that like maybe someday that would be great if he could be with Bev and start a family and have a farm. But I think a part of that dream of Bailey's was also like he knew that Bev was ambitious and that Bev was confident and that Bev was grounded. And that's something that I think Bailey wished he had more of. And so I think in his dream, he even pictured maybe being with Bev and then following Bev kind of wherever she wanted to take them, whether that be to like a bigger town or to like purchase more land or have kids or whatever that might be. I think Bailey was kind of hoping that if he were to be with Bev, that she would push him to do bigger and better things that he was too afraid to do alone.
So Crowbar's initial plan was he was going to get out of town as fast as he possibly could and never look back. He would likely make a quick pit stop back in his hometown of Chicago, actually, and maybe see some of his family who was still there before he would move on and find just somewhere else, right? He could just open up his own shop and just kind of never talk to anyone again, really.
Actually, I have a question.
So, Bailey,
Oh.
as one who's clearly expressed how much commitment they have to Bev, why is it then the 2 moments of sadness and frustration you decide to just destroy Bev? Why is this your immediate reaction to just hurt her?
Okay. I gotta answer this very carefully.
She's not worthy, or you're not worthy of her.
All right, I'm gonna address both times. Address both times, right? First, nice.
Well, now he's beneath the dirt.
First, I want to say that it wasn't right for Bailey to yell at Bev. Getting that out there.
Well done.
Yes, good job, Grant. But next, the first time that it happened, obviously it was right after his grandfather sacrificed himself. And so in Bailey's mind, as I mentioned earlier, like in the first half, Bailey was always kind of afraid of holding Bev back, which was always kind of a little bit a part of why he didn't really talk to her. And so when he was faced with the fact that his family line basically meant doom, in his mind, he could no longer be with Bev because he couldn't live with it if she was hurt as a result. Like I think he saw Bev's potential and admired Bev for things that he didn't have. And so I think he was so scared and so upset that he couldn't contribute to that he just kind of blew up, which again wasn't okay. Like, I'm so sorry, Hannah. Like, I'm sorry to Bev, because he really, like, saying those things to Bev was not okay. Saying like, I don't want you to be a part of my life and stuff like that. Like, that's so hard. But in Bailey's mind, it was, this can't happen and I have to cut it off now, or else things could happen and she could get hurt. And he couldn't live with that. The second time on the battlefield, Bailey, I think, knew that he was about to die because of what his grandfather did, and he definitely put the pieces together. Grant took some time to understand the whole promise thing, but Bailey was on it. And so, but when he got that, I think he yelled at Bev again, which it's a wonderful, horrible contrast. It's so sad because he said to her that he never wanted to yell at her again because he hated the feeling of it. And then Jared points out that, okay, like, really in your last moments you're gonna yell at Bev? It was freaking gold. But when he was yelling at Bev, it sounded as if he was angry at Bev, but he wasn't. Like, he was angry that this is how it had to be. And so he was yelling at Bev, like, I made this promise, like, I did this for you. The whole theme of the late theme of Bailey's character, I think, was that love overpowers fear. And so he was also trying to almost like plead with Bev, like, I did this because I overcame my fear, because I love you. And I think that's a really powerful message. It's just, he's not the best with the words, and so it kind of can look like he's yelling at Bev. So it's up to Bev then, past that point, I guess, after he turns into dirt, how she takes it and how she lives with it.
After she turns into
Yeah. So
Just really layer on
Yeah.
the survivor's guilt.
yeah.
there.
So I'm sorry if that's not satisfying answer, but in my mind that's why he yelled at Bev so much.
Yeah.
Are you satisfied, DJ?
Yeah. Well, I was just gonna say I find it very interesting. It's just not how I think I would have done that, because in my mind that just adds a lot of survivor's guilt.
Yeah, I mean that was part of the point why me as Grant made Bailey do it, was because I knew how challenging. I'm so sorry, but it's
So
good.
what you're saying is you were still trying to hurt Hannah. No. You're done. You're done.
So, other cool lore things that I have now remembered after this. Crowbar's past from Chicago. His abilities and existence stems from the Chicago, well, actually the Midwest fires from, I believe it actually was 1862. Conveniently around the exact same time that all this started happening. The Great Chicago Fire is the most notable ones, but they were actually fires spread all across the Midwest. And the final monster referenced the fact that it was his doing that not only caused the Midwest fires, but also the one that killed your mother. And then, who was it? No, I don't remember it. Just go on. I'll think of it later.
It'll come back.
Wait, stay on this thread. Behind the Johnson, who thanks the Johnsons for something.
Yeah. Well, it was totally the Johnsons' greed.
Calm down.
Well, not your greed, but your father's. In his ploy. Okay, it got turned around a little bit. All right, so it wasn't his family that was summoning demons in their basement. It might have been his. And that's why they appeared. That's why it appeared in front of your car on the road. Because it may have gotten a little out of hand. But it's the same reason why your family grew from, like, you show up in town and then suddenly you're rich, like, and you have all this land and all this power. You literally made a deal with the devil. Got a little out of hand.
So Jared and I are connected in far more ways than just one. Is what you're saying. Oh, yeah. Very nice.
Oh yeah. Man. Sawyer's power she got from sleeping in a fey-touched burrow. There were fairy mounds, and you were on one of them. That was part of the lore that I gave Lydia. She believed that her magic stemmed from fairy mounds scattered across in the hills of the Nebraska. Yeah.
Hey man, I believe it. I have a question.
Man.
I have a question for you. So there was the Doulahan, I believe is how you say it, the headless horseman that, like, plagued the Pattersons or whatever. I, as Grant, when it's funny because I cut you off before you described the big bad, but when we entered the field, I thought that was the big bad that we were going to face. I was walking into it, and I feel like maybe the others were too, as in like, oh, the headless horseman with the head that looks like cheese. Like, oh, it's that guy.
That is in the lore.
It's in the lore. Okay.
In the lore.
But then there was another big bad that
You didn't even notice it first.
that I didn't notice at first that was hinted by a Grant. But I guess my question is, how are those two related? Like, did they work together? What was because the Doulahan helped Bailey defeat it. So, like, were they enemies or rivals, or what was the whole deal with that?
The Doulahan is an entirely neutral force. It is neither good nor evil. It rides, it calls, people die. Now, power over life and death is something that a demon that lusts for power would be greatly interested in. And so it was currently there attempting to overtake the role of the Doulahan. So it had crossed the barrier between the fields of the Johnson estate and the Patterson farm in an attempt to take that away from the Doulahan. It was having trouble because currently it was bonded there by the Pattersons. Now, as long as nothing else shows up, because currently the last Patterson bonded is now dirt. So as long as nothing else tries to take that over, we're good.
So what you're saying is the Doulahan was trapped in the field?
The
And that's why there's a
Dullahan
monster in the
was
field?
bound to the field. I wouldn't say trapped.
Okay.
And it wasn't against it. It wasn't for it. It's just, honestly, it kind of made it easier because the souls came to him.
Oh, sure, sure.
But yeah. And the whole
Okay.
cheese head thing, that's real. It says it just looks like rotted cheese.
I hate to ask one last thing, but so are you saying that the horn, the big like Nightwalker thing, are you saying that that was summoned by the Johnsons and that was a demon?
Definitely.
Epic.
So that leads me to my question. For Nightwalkers, trying to remember some of the lore about them, but there's they come from the Shadowfell? No, the negative plane.
Yeah,
They come from the negative plane, and usually it's when like someone shows up on the negative plane and then leaves or something like that. I can't remember the
Yeah.
exact details, but
it
there's
like swaps places, but one of them can still go back. It's
yeah, it's kind of complicated. But was that similar to what needed to happen? Because I never really saw my dad after the well, I guess I saw him at the baseball field, but I'm just curious if we were actually truly trying to defeat this.
No,
thing.
it wasn't a Nightwalker. I just used the stat block for it.
Okay, cool.
So you're fighting a Nightwalker, but
Yeah, but it wasn't a
not
true Nightwalker. Okay, cool.
So,
Too weird of a face.
yeah.
Fair. Yeah, it did. Cool.
Yeah, man, I can't remember that second.
Well, do we have like actual
Jeez,
questions to
Lord.
ask? Not just
Yeah,
ours.
I'm sorry.
Hey, Kenny.
Guys, I'm
How you
sorry.
doing over there?
You know, I'm doing real well.
You can have
I'm
this
just
back now.
enjoying the company, you know.
Yeah, well, that's good. We enjoy yours.
Thank
Hi.
you, thank you. I'm glad to be back.
Yeah.
You know. All right, so we actually have Cam, which
We love Cam.
in the chat. A few people here know him. He's asked a few questions. First, he said, "Grant, where did you get your inspiration for your character?" Now we have two Grants.
So, which Grant, Cam? Say it in chat.
We'll both talk
Yeah,
at the same
so-
time. No, I'm just kidding.
So, I'm just kidding. Grant's character kind of came out of necessity, I think. If I remember correctly, we weren't being super secretive about our characters, and when I was one of the last people to make my character, and so when I was making Grant Johnson, it sounded like we needed someone that had more firepower, I think.
Chat ability.
Yeah, you know, someone that, yes, was popular compared to the rest of these bimbos, and someone that could actually, like, aside from Bev, we didn't have a whole lot of, like, heavy hitters from what I understood.
Wow.
Well, I didn't really know a whole lot about.
Well, Bailey could hit with a baseball bat Grant's pitches, so he was a bit of a heavy hitter. Just saying.
Let's not bring that up.
Anyway.
The stream.
So yeah, I kind of created Grant that way, and then Ryan and I kind of talked a little bit more about his characters and some of the connections that we could have had with us both being football players, and then I had the idea of us being gay for each other, and like barged into Ryan's room. I was like, I slammed his door open. I was like, Ryan. I was like, Ryan, we should be gay for each other, and he was like, okay.
Thought you'd never ask.
Honestly, he was kind of just like, yeah, I mean, like, let's do it. So yeah, that's kind of how all of that came about.
So we did get clarification. It is Grant who plays Edward in the paper dungeon.
Oh, okay, but that was great too.
Any of us.
No, I love it. That could be any of us.
We'll all take turns answering.
I'm having an identity crisis. Okay. So I loved when we were coming up with this, like when Aaron gave the idea, what I was excited was like a weird eerie Midwest version of the Mystery Gang, which was like obviously just translated to like just a bunch of different like stereotypes of like types of people that live in the Midwest and stuff. And I instantly wanted to be like a farm boy, because like, dude, farm boy is an aesthetic. Like there's a lot wrapped up in that, right? There's layers. And so my character is actually based on somebody that we went to school with, who I'm not going to say his full name. His first name was Bailey. But he was a farm boy, and he was strong and silent, but he talked like quietly, like when he needed to say something. And he walked around like this, with his hands in his denim jeans, and he would tuck in his shirt. He had a belt buckle. He had like the cowboy boots, the whole 9 yards, an old like truck. Like this kid was the epitome of the like respected, jacked farm kid.
I think we used a picture of him for a reference for the art.
We kind of did. No, he doesn't. He doesn't look exactly like the art.
No,
it was
not
more
at
like
all.
this is the aesthetic I'm
But we're
going
like,
for.
so if it looks,
Um,
I think we took the shirt. I think they have
something
the same shirt in the picture.
just the concept. The concept of the character though is based on that. Of course, it wasn't exact.
Also, the shirt just says dirt, which is incredibly funny in
it's
retrospect.
Whoa, dude. Now, I do want to state, though, the purpose of creating this character was not to make fun of Bailey or to make fun of the stereotype. Not at all. It was more like I really enjoy the concept of, like, accurately depicting our culture because it's just, like, our Midwestern culture because it's just a bit strange and a bit eerie, and it's a lot of fun. So that's kind of where my inspiration came from, Bailey.
Okay. Their second question was, Lydia, since you grew up in Indiana and not Nebraska, was it an accurate depiction of your hometown as well?
It's an accurate depiction of my hometown when I first got there. My hometown is actually now a city and is now continuing to grow and try to put on big boy pants and be big. But
So it's a big kid now.
I'm a big. I can't. Sorry, we gotta cut it off there. But yeah, I think where I'm at, there's no accents. But there's lots of corn. Lots and lots of corn.
All right.
I have a question for Hannah too. You might be asking it right now, but I'm interested how it felt like to be from Cali and experience a Midwestern themed session or campaign.
I felt really nervous because I didn't want to look like uninformed and like lame because I didn't know a lot of the things. So I was like, and also I'll be honest, I wasn't sure I was even gonna do an accent until Grant introduced his character and had one, and then I felt comfortable because I was like, I've never been there, I don't know if there are accents usually, and there usually aren't from what I saw. But then as soon as Grant like introduced his character and had one, I was like, okay, then I could probably do that. So then I did.
I thought it was very funny since we're all from, or not all of us, but the vast majority of us are from the Midwest. How some of us still included accents, even though we would be the ones to have a Midwest accent.
Now, let me be clear. There are absolutely communities with accents around here. Or like in Nebraska, absolutely. It's just a subculture, really.
Fun facts. And this is just the linguist side of me coming in. So Nebraska is very it's very common for people from Nebraska or from that section of the Midwest to go into things like radio or voiceover or something, or telemarketing. Yeah, the reason being is because we, for the most part, actually don't have much of an inflection that goes either way. Like, our accent is pretty neutral. And because of that, we're very easy to understand. Unless you're a DJ, in that case, you don't speak English. And to add on to that, a lot of the communities that we know and adore that are that talk in a southern accent are actually manufactured. So usually someone way long ago, either from the South, moves up, and then they like slowly kind of spread it, and everyone around's like, "Ooh, I like how that sounds, country boy," and then starts kind of talking like that. Or I know for a fact there were at least 3 people in our high school that spoke in a country accent that did not have a country accent. Like I know at least 3 people that they'd walk up and be like, "Yep, that's how I talk," and I'm like, "That is not how no one here talks like that but you. You're the only. I don't even think your parents talk in a country accent." So yeah, I found it very funny that you guys chose to go like to accent yourselves. But I mean, hey man, like I roll with it, bro.
I'd just like to say major respect to Hannah twice, actually. Because not only was she like, I'm nervous, I'm not from the Midwest, and then chose to play someone whose family has like founded the town. But then she also was like, I don't know if I'm gonna have an accent. And then the day of was like, well, I guess I'm gonna have an accent. Like, that is unfair. And so if you don't do that, don't feel bad about yourself because she's just that good. And you can get there too.
Alrighty, the last one that Cam asked was, aside from the dorks that grew up here with me, would anyone ever visit Nebraska and see the things that the campaign was based on?
Okay, so this is actually pretty cool because I don't think Aaron realized this, but in the town/city that I have, the Headless Horseman and the Legend of Sleepy Hollow is like a tradition every Halloween. Like we have this certain area in our town that is where you go on Halloween, and you have a Headless Horseman hayride, and you get chased by the Headless Horseman, and it's great. And it was really cool, actually, because on my way here to be with everybody, we did it really complicated. I flew to Nebraska, and then we drove all the way up to Idaho. And while we were in Nebraska, I got to see a few things. Like, I didn't get to, like, see them. We just drove by them. But, like, I fully want, like, a tour.
Dude, when we go back to take you back to the airport, you'll get the full tour, okay? I promise.
I will say yes, but like my purpose of the trip will not be for the tour, it will be to see all of them. So, but I would make the trip and a tour would probably take place, but my purposes for the trip would be to visit the dorks. So,
Visit the dorks.
That's good to hear. It's good to hear I didn't upset her so much that she's just going to leave.
Alrighty. Actually, Aaron, these next couple are for you.
Oh, good.
How much of the end of the campaign was influenced by the strange occurrences that happened in the first episode?
Pretty much all of it.
All of it. Okay.
I would say, I mean, as I mentioned, DJ was like, "Hey, here's your final boss, punk." And then, like the events happened in it, like the Bailey turning into dirt. That wasn't. It was. I knew it was gonna happen, but I didn't know for sure how it was gonna happen or when. Strange occurrence wise. Oh geez. Yeah, pretty much for like the major like crazy things. Yeah, the end of the campaign was pretty much all of the strange happenings, come to think of it.
Okay. What was it like? And this is for you and actually everybody.
Ooh.
What was it like preparing for this campaign that you knew was just going to be something short term?
Oh God.
Because I can say that one person, regardless of how short term, will still get extremely attached to their characters.
I didn't come here to be roasted.
Hannah definitely came here to be roasted. It's okay. It's rough. It's real rough. The whole short-term campaign thing. I personally love the format. I wish I was better at it. I suck at starting things, so I don't do one-shots very well because one-shot is entirely just starting something. But preparing to have a good resolution in a 2-hour period of time, like episode by episode, and only having 6 of them, it was a lot rougher than I expected it to be. There are a lot of things that I was kind of disappointed by the end of it, where I was like, man, I wish I would have done that, or I wish I would have gone here. Man, if they would just stop looking at that dumb desk and just move to the lower floor already. Why did I even put a desk there? I'm such an idiot. Never put furniture. The furniture shouldn't exist in your games. Yeah, it was tough. It was really fun. I love the format, and I would love to do it again. Hopefully I'll improve as we go. But yeah, it was fun, terrifying, but all around, I think it was definitely worth it. I don't know about you all having to fit in character stuff in 2 hours.
Like I said, I didn't come here to be roasted, but I do get very easily attached to the characters I make. I put a lot of effort into them, and I depending on the character, I'll put a lot of qualities that I like about myself and then mix them with qualities that I wish I had, or like people I admire, or like characters from movies or books and such. And so I really enjoyed this, like the thought of like, oh, it being like a short little side thing was like super fun. But I wish we had kept going, because now I have this character that I love so much, and I'm like, what do I do now? So I did actually, Hero Forge was having a Black Friday sale, so I may have made a miniature of Bev, but
Yo, what? No one told me about this.
There were $4 downloads.
No one told. Okay, I saw that. I followed the trends. No, you didn't tell me you were making Bev.
I can show you after this.
I want to see.
Okay. She looks really cool.
I expect she's really cool.
At least you still have a character to go back to.
Hey, best Hero Forge model right there. You don't have to pay for anything. It's nothing.
You just have an empty base.
Yeah.
Just a circle.
Yeah.
Maybe a little pile of dust.
Anyone else have anything to say? I don't know. I said my piece. Yeah.
I fell in love with Sawyer like as soon as we started making her. But it's Erin, so I was fully prepared for her to die. And that's just how I approached it. Was I love her and I'm going to full on go into her. And if she dies, it's Erin. We saw it coming.
Still sad.
Still
But
sad.
We saw it coming.
But we saw it coming.
Actually, really quick. To actually answer the question, Jared wasn't my best work as far as like characters wise. Like he wasn't my favorite character by any means. But that being said, I think at base Jared is like he's a warlock. But I think what made me like Jared or like enjoy playing Jared as much as it did was the relationships and interactions that I built with everyone else, right? It was it was less, oh, I'm excited to play Jared, and more like, ooh, I'm excited to like talk to my favorite people. Like, like I'm like I love these characters so much. I get to interact with them. I get to like, so I think like Jared's okay. I like all your guys' characters way more. But I mean, Jared's not okay. But
Jared was the glue, man.
But before moving on to the next cast member, somebody was interested in Jared, and they were curious about what your patron was, or who your patron was.
To be
Eve, by the way.
Yeah.
We love you. We love you, Eve.
Eve, you carry me with all that art. Honestly, thank you. From all of us to you. At the Paper Dungeon. Thank you. Well, so Jared himself was a sword, a blade. Yeah. Warlock. He was a hexblade warlock. As far as like the patron, that was all Aaron. I just had the idea that because this has come from experience that literally like while wandering around in the woods, I have literally found random blades and or oddities just buried, right? I know one person in particular, probably in the chat right now, that found a karambit in a Walmart parking lot. The things you find in Nebraska, man, like it's just so weird. So I was just like, what if, while Jared was being angsty and mad at his dad, it was raining and like storming out, and he just like wandered near the Elkhorn, and like the storm dragged away a bunch of mud, and he found this like ancient whispering dagger that just so happened to expand into a sword with like a bunch of runes on it. And then as far as like what the whispers were or who was trying to talk to Jared or teach him these languages, I left that mainly to the DM, which I feel like if I remember correctly, you made it a god of fate, right? A god of
Road.
Yeah, Leon the Road.
It was the Celtic goddess of fate.
Yeah.
She carried a silver wheel on her back, where she would transport corpses.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
She was in charge of the Weave of Fate. It was a big spinning wheel.
Yeah, the main things that I like, the main key points that I mentioned to Aaron were just like, ever since he found the dagger, he was being whispered these things and was was being taught like unknown secrets, right? Like, so like that's why he knows abyssal, and like he's slowly picked up on magic and stuff. So yeah, I mean that's all it really was. It was a creepy god of fate. You Celts, you Celts with your really cool and oddly disturbing gods and stuff. Go you.
Go you.
Do you have anything to say about the 2-hour thing?
Yeah, what was the question again?
I think the question before was, what was it like playing in something that was short term?
Yeah.
Do you have anything about that?
Well, given the fact that I knew this would be a short-term thing, I put as little effort into Crowbar as possible. Which hindsight 2020, I kind of wish I maybe put a little more because your guys' characters were really cool.
Crowbar was cool.
Crowbar was okay.
Oh.
Yeah,
cool
you
name.
know, yeah. But yeah, so that's about it.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Well, I think for me, I mean, prepping Bailey, I already talked about, but there was a bit of a challenge. I think I can speak for the whole cast here, where there's a challenge, and also for the with the DM of trying to create a story with rise, fall, rising action, like climax, falling action, all that stuff. It's hard to create a story with a finite time. That is absolutely a skill to hone. So I think you can tell, maybe you can't, but I know we can tell that while we were playing the earlier sessions, we were less familiar with the flow. And as we go through the campaign in the later episodes, I think you'll notice that things happen a little quicker. We move scenes faster and stuff like that. Yeah. And I mean, as I don't know if we even mentioned this on Monday, but as much as this show, The Paper Dungeon, is trying to emulate what it really is like to just play Dungeons and Dragons with your friends in your parents' basement around a table, like that kind of thing, which is what we did for a long time, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate to. Although we're emulating that as much as we can, it's also a show. You guys are watching it on Twitch. And we want to provide for you something that's interesting and something that's entertaining and it has depth and all that stuff. And so when you have a finite amount of time, it's really a learning experience for us, I think.
As Grant would say, it has layers.
It does have layers. So yeah, I felt like we as a cast grew in our ability to play and our ability to read each other, read the DM, figure out what's next and what we need to do with the time we have before it's over.
Yeah, I think to add to that, it's just one of the things that I'm sure we all found challenging is it's basically the exact opposite as you guys normally play in the main campaign, where we have very long episodes where you guys get to talk a lot and have those discussions and have that character interaction. And so having 6 episodes that are each 2 hours long is not a lot of time for what you guys are used to playing and how you guys normally play. So I think there is definitely, I agree, I think there is that struggle. For me, right? Still, same. For me, one of the reasons why I love being the DM is because I don't get into a character's headspace very easily. And so for me, when I was making Grant, I was trying to figure out a good balance of effort while not putting too much effort into it. Kind of the same thing with Drew, where I'm very, very busy and I still had the main campaign to plan and stuff like that. So it was a very give and take type thing for me, where it was I don't want to put so much time and effort into this that I'm not able to get the rest of my stuff done, but I still want to put enough effort into this that it's still going to be a high quality production and everything like that, which was kind of a finicky balance. So yeah, when I was prepping, that was kind of something that I was keeping in mind, and then also trying to keep in mind that Grant was not something that I had overly figured out. It wasn't like with the main campaign where we had our characters figured out 4 months before we started, and you guys had a lot of time to kind of really think through your characters. It was we had 1 day to make these characters, and then we started recording, and we didn't have a whole lot of time to think through a lot of stuff.
And on the DM side of things, I think before the first episode, I think it was 3 days out or something when we were hey, do you want to record the first episode this following month or Sunday or something? Yeah. And I think Aaron had 3 days to prepare for the first thing or something like that.
Over those 3 days, I slept for 8 hours. I'm not even kidding. I got there and then we finished the thing. I drove back to Wayne, like which is where I go to college, and then I slept the whole day. I'm like, it was bad. If there isn't anything else to cover, we're gonna hit some speed questions as best we can. We're running.
So we have
running
a
low.
couple more questions in the chat. The first one: do you have any go-to sources to help for lore?
The internet.
Just okay.
Yeah. Let me tell you, I play a lot of games, read a lot of books. If you're looking for monster names, Google Translate Latin. Find some core stem words. Gaelic, that works great too. Celtic lore, fascinating. Any old myths and legends, hit them hard, and then just take it and then just blow it out of the water with something crazy. I don't even know. That's what I'd do.
You want to pass it down? We'll just keep it concise. If you have any
We were
tips.
all saying it. Yeah,
Oh.
I do books, movies, TV shows, and sometimes I dream of weird things.
Yeah, pretty similar. Yeah, I read a lot. I play a lot of video games. I just consume a ton of media, and if sooner or later it all just kind of gets pulled together and barfed out as whatever your next obsession is, and then you let your players suffer through that. So yeah.
Pinterest images, songs, and fantasy name generator.
I agree.
I compiled a lot of the lore that I gave to Aaron, and he also did a lot of research. Google. That's literally it.
100%. For me, I try and think of the image that I have in my head and then just find whatever works for that and then kind of workshop that.
Nice. Same person, Neolith222, says, what was Hannah's initial perception of the Midwest?
I like it here.
This is in the Midwest.
No, I'm saying like in the campaign. I like it here.
That's
before you knew.
I don't know.
Just a bunch of corn and
Well, I have a lot of friends that go to college with me in New York that are from the Midwest, and so I hear a lot of stories from them, and I get a lot of Snapchat videos in like the summer of just like the cornfield. I have a friend named Savannah, and she literally lives outside of one, and she like. I always asked her, I was like, do you like actually get lost sometimes? And she was like, I need someone with me at all times or I will not get back to my house.
It all looks the same.
Yeah,
man.
yeah. So like, so I knew a few things from like friends, but it was very interesting to me because I didn't live there. I know this isn't the Midwest.
all right. The One Goat 2, is there a chance that you will do another campaign that takes place in the real world?
You never know. You never know.
Oh, Lydia wants something.
I know it's hooked. Okay, so we were kind of talking about this, but I want to take a hand at DMing, but of course I need to feel confident and prepared and things like that. But I want to do it here with them because I love them. And so I'm generating ideas for it, and I'm just going to say it. Aaron was a really big inspiration for DMing. Both DJ and Aaron are really good DMs, so it's really awesome to get to watch them and get to kind of get like visual practice through them.
Well, if you do end up doing it in the real world, the chat says New York would be awesome, and they would pay to hear your Boston accent.
Oh, no.
New York was already taken by another D&D stream, but we'll do it if you really want.
And then that was actually the last of the questions, but there was a couple more comments that just says, Drew, you have the most insightful answers, my guy. biggest big brain stuff on the stream tonight.
Oh yeah,
Hard to read.
Now I have one last question. This is kind of for everyone, but mostly DJ and Aaron as co-owners of the Paper Dungeon brand.
I'm afraid.
Now,
Yeah,
we got time.
one last one.
We got time. It's not a long one, but this was our first bout as a group for a side campaign, and there were a lot of things we learned through it. So I wanted to ask you guys, what are our plans for maybe other side shows that we do, And what are you excited about when it comes to more material that we're going to be making together?
Well, we already have kind of done some other side content. One of the things that I was most excited for when we started brainstorming other ideas was having one-shots that were also in Nico Muris that took place during the same time. For Temper of the Moon, we did that. It's on a different continent. It's on the Moonshay Isles, and we got to have that going on. So I'm really excited about stuff like that. Lydia and I have kind of talked about that. What's going on?
You guys.
You're brainwashing us?
Well, yes, it is the cult, but shh. No, when we were brainstorming. Shh, I'm not brainwashing anyone. There's no hitting things behind the cameras.
That's exactly what he wants you to think.
Freudian slip.
Oops. So yeah, that was one of the things I was most excited for. And then I would like to eventually to see all of you guys DM, except for you, Grant. You don't get to DM. But
We'll do it someday, and it'll be lots of fun.
but yeah, I liked all the side shows. I know eventually we want to have more.
Yeah, I know. I mentioned I would love to do this again. And I know myself, I've had an idea in the works, and it's pretty sweet. So we'll just see how that goes. I guarantee you will see additional other games. We might even play other RPGs.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mentioned the Yellow King. I love the setting. It's just a great time. Additional
look forward to
content,
more
side
content.
campaigns. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stay watching. Invite your friends. Tell them about it. This will be going up on YouTube, so you can say, hey, if you don't like the main campaign, which why wouldn't you? We also have a podcast.
We hope in the near future that it will be on Podbean, Spotify, Google Podcast, and Amazon Music.
Yep. So if your friends are like, I don't know, main campaign, so much fantasy. What am I supposed to do? Just show them around. Say, hey, you wanna see Lydia be freaked out by a bunch of tongues? Or like, a little salt bed in, and can watch someone turn to dirt.
Heyo.
Woo! I mean, emotionally and physically. Just dirt. Send them over our way. Keep paying attention. We'll be there.
Exactly.
Lots
of side content. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is that all we have for today, everybody?
I think so.
Well, thanks everyone for stopping by.
Yeah. Thank you, Kenny, for hosting
100%
us.
Thank you, Kenny.
Thank you for allowing me to be here.
Yeah. Cool.
Yes.
We will see you next time. I'm gonna demonstrate something really quick. Good luck and Godspeed. We'll see you next time, Dungeoneers.
Bye-bye.